I gotta be honest, when I first heard the news, this just didn't really feel real to me. Like, I was genuinely tearing up when I first saw that. Like, this was the first time one of celebrity's death actually, like, impacted me on a personal level, and I'm sure that anyone who grew up with Dragon Ball can relate to that too. Like, this man was one of the biggest inspirations to other anime and manga creators like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, which I haven't watched yet. I mean, without Dragon Ball, I don't think anime would be as mainstream as it is now. Like, I still remember watching those promos for Dragon Ball Z Kai when it was first airing on Nicktoons, and also Vortex too. Does anybody remember Vortex? It was basically like 4Kids for the 2010s. I mean, I remember looking up to Goku and Vegeta and just thinking, like, they look so cool. Like, I wanted to be like this dude. I wanted to shoot energy blasts into my hands. I wanted to teleport if I'm late to school. I wanted my hair to turn spiky and golden when I scroll on the top of my lungs. And me doing all that kind of annoyed the shit out of my brothers, but I didn't care. Toriyama pretty much carried a good portion of my childhood. So when he died, it's kind of like having someone you knew since preschool die on you too. It sucks because not only will people probably never get an anime adaptation of the Granola and Mora arcs, but the creator won't be here to see his franchise evolve either. Sorry this part of the video, it was a little bit like too serious for some people. I just want to get this off my chest real quick. So rest in peace Akira Toriyama. He might be gone, but his work won't be forgotten. Alright, so this might be a little bit of like tonal whiplash. Just start the intro right after this whole tribute to Akira Toriyama. I just want to I felt like it would be better for me to actually say these words come out of my mouth. So yeah, if you need one to pause the video before we get into the review, it's just take out 5 minutes. For everyone else, I explain the intro. Alright, now we're transitioning to the HD console with Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit. This is one of the few games that we're looking at for this marathon that I'm playing for the first time. This is basically the spiritual successor to the Budokai games, kind of like the Raging Blast series was spiritual successor to the Tenkaichi games. The only difference is that Raging Blast actually became a series even though it was only 2 games. And this is the only game in the Burst Limit series and is the last game in a 2.5D style, unless you want to count fighters. I guess this may be because this game never really did good enough to justify a sequel. I mean, sales never really bombed, it sold well, but in comparison to the Budokai and especially the Tenkaichi games, it wasn't good enough. I mean, I don't know, if you see what everybody says about this game online, it's not really much of a consensus. Some people like this game, some people didn't like it, and others are just kind of indifferent to it. Personally, I haven't played the game until now, but I didn't really think I would like it because if I wasn't into the Budokai games, then why would I like this game since it's kind of the same formula? But now that I have the Budokai trilogy and the Tenkaichi trilogy fresh in my mind, will I still feel the same way or would I actually have fun here? Well, now that I finally played the game for myself, I can say that I don't think the game is bad, but I don't really think the game is amazing either. Honestly, I don't even think that the game is great, but it is good. And honestly, given the games we're going to look at after Raging Blast 2, that's probably better than nothing. Alright, let's get the presentation out the way first. Honestly, I think it's aged pretty well for an early PS3/Xbox 360 game. At first, I didn't really like the art style, but I learned to appreciate it when I got older. I mean, I wouldn't say it looks better than Raging Blast, and sometimes the cel shading kind of makes the characters look a little bit blocky. But the cuts of the animations are pretty good to look at, especially when I try to reenact the scenes from the show. The one thing I don't like about it is that in the story mode, they really just reuse the same animations every time you start a new fight. Like, every time I see a new animation, I'm just thinking, alright, cool, finally a new animation. But then they start using that same exact animation over and over again, and it just doesn't look cool anymore. I mean, the opening cinematic when you blew up the game is pretty cool too, even though some of the scenes from the opening are just ripped straight out of the story mode. But this intro was a pretty good first impression for the player. Kiseki no Honô yo, Moeagare yo, kimi no kokoro ni mirai mutame. The ores in this game look pretty good, and the blast effects are a lot more flashy and vibrant than they were before. At first, I didn't really like the Ultimate Attack cutscenes because it was just the same cutscene, the characters getting blown away, but I guess Raging Blast kind of did the same thing with a split screen cutscene, so maybe that's just my bias showing. I think the graphics look pretty good though. The only real downside on the menu screens, they're good, but a little bit of a downgrade from Tenkaichi 3 and maybe even Budokai 3. I don't really like the orange color backgrounds, but the character arts look pretty good though. Bulma though kind of just looks kind of off. I don't have anything else to add. This game looks pretty good for the first HD Dragon Ball game. But don't ask me about the music, I can't remember anything besides the opening theme and the menu music, but those are pretty good songs though. Songs for Energy Blast, Ki Blast, and Warriors are pretty high quality too. The voice actors do a pretty good job, but I feel like I can say the same thing for any other Dragon Ball game. The only problem I have with voice acting isn't even the voice acting itself, but an error from the game does. Imperfect Cell in the cutscene sounds exactly like his normal self in the gameplay. When he's grunting or yelling, they use the voice hooks for Perfect Cell.
I guess I've become just too strong. See you around!
That's the only thing that I noticed when it comes to like sound errors. So this video might be a little bit shorter than the others since I'm only covering one game instead of 3 for one video. So Retrospective takes a lot to establish in the Budokai games. The control setup is basically pretty much the same from the Budokai games. Square is to punch, X is to block, triangle to kick, and circle to throw ki blast. But you can pull out special attacks on the fly just like in Budokai 2 and 3. There's also these heavy punches and kicks that you can do that can stun your opponent, but you can't do anything after you launch your heavy attack. So if you miss your attack, then your opponent has to get a chance to counter attack. You know, if the CPU was smart enough to take that chance. I like how when you hit someone with that attack, you can see their fist poke outside their gut, just like in the show. Especially with Frieza, you can see his eyes gouging out of his sockets. You can also counter another player's attack by teleporting like in Budokai 3, but I don't know if it's just me, but the timing window on how to do it is really weird, because in Budokai 3, you can teleport right behind the character just before the opponent executes his attack. In Burst Limit, you can be in the middle of the opponent's blast attack and you'll still instant transmission right behind him, which kind of takes out the whole risk and reward system behind it, because the risk is that you won't teleport in time and the reward is that you'll be able to counter the attack if you pull it off in time. I mean, yeah, when you're on the defensive side, that's not really much of a problem, but on the offensive side, you'll probably be pissed off when your opponent somehow counters the attack while they're getting hit by it. Then there's environmental interactions where you can escape the battle to the sky if you knock your opponent near a wall. And there's also some new mechanics that this game brings to the table, like the fatigue meter, which basically just stuns you when you're full. And one of the big mechanics are the drama pieces and the support characters. The support characters are sort of like the tag team mechanics from Fighters, but you don't actually play as them. You choose them to play a part in your drama piece. Drama pieces are cutscenes that activate when you meet certain requirements in the battle. When those conditions are met, the drama piece activates them automatically to switch up the battle. These effects are things like healing yourself, taking no damage, your support character jumping in to protect you or to hype you up in the background, or a character deflecting a beam. Some of these are pretty nice to look at, and some cutscenes are pretty funny too if you get the right combination. I like the conversation between Bardock and Goku if you have Goku as a support character, but yeah, I like the drama pieces though, at first. The thing about drama pieces is that they interrupt the fight every time they activate, and it ruins the flow of the combat every time it happens too. And the worst part of all is that it's unskippable. And it's especially known when I'm in the middle of a combo and the drama piece activates, or my opponent or your teammate do their best reenacting a Toto and Itadori jumping Hanami. Not only that, but when the drama piece of a character just says something, if I blasted my opponent right before it, the fight just resets like nothing ever happened. Like, what kind of cheating ass bullshit is that? If this game had a competitive scene, I just know like there'd be a bunch of people just abusing the shit out of this mechanic. I just know it. But thinking about it now, they will probably make it a requirement to have it disabled, so yeah. Yeah, you got them disabled, which is a good thing, but the fact that one of the main mechanics of the game just can interrupt the fighting constantly, and there's not even an option to skip it, that's just not good game design. I mean, maybe if they toned down the randomness of it all, this system could have been better. But that's not the only problem I have with this game though. What the hell happened to the camera? It's so finicky now. Yeah, the Tenkaichi games had camera issues before, but they had an excuse. It was in 3D. This is in 2D, and yeah, technically it's 2.5D, but Budokai 3's camera wasn't this bad. Even the original Budokai, the camera janks around every 20 seconds, and your controls get reversed every time it happens too. Then there's the fact that key attacks don't take away from your power meter for some reason, which doesn't sound bad until you realize that people can just spam ki blast over and over again. But not only that, but it makes it pretty easy to spam blast attacks that aren't ultimates. I mean, sure, if you're good, you should be losing to people who do that in the first place, but using ki blast and blast attacks should take away from your meter every time you use them to make it more balanced. I mean, they did fix the bullshit from the Budokai games where shorter characters can't hit if you're playing as a tall character, so yeah. The core foundation of the game has potential, but overall, I see this as just a little bit of a downgrade from Budokai 3. Just a little. Then we got the game modes in this game, which isn't a lot. Versus Trial and Z Chronicles. Versus where you and another CPU fight each other. So it's basically just any other fighting game in that aspect. Multiplayer and Burst Limit is where the game shines the most. Not a lot, but the game is definitely a lot more fun with friends around. Having the character roster only go up to the Cell Saga kind of hurts the game a little bit, especially coming out right after Tenkaichi 3. Z Chronicles is the story mode of this game, and just like the character roster, it only goes up to the Cell Saga, and has some bonus stories too. Now some difficulties are a lot behind beating story objectives on normal difficulty. Once you beat a level in the story mode, you can unlock the characters and drama pieces. The story mode is pretty fun at first, but it can get pretty repetitive after a couple of hours since a lot of fights start repeating. The cutscenes are pretty much the best part of the story mode since they're animated pretty close to the show, but sometimes the way they're animated are pretty inconsistent because sometimes the animation is pretty good, but then other times they'll like being animated on Source Filmmaker, and that's disrespectful to Source Filmmaker.
It'll reduce the Earth to space dust!
Meanwhile...
Die, Vegeta!
Well, that was a load of shit.
Then there's also the trial mode, which has 4 different sub-modes: survival, time, PowerPoints, and online. Survival has you go up against 100 different opponents and your health resets every time you win. The mode stops until you win against 100 people or you lose. I think I got up to 50 or 55 wins before I lost. Time and power are damn near the same thing. The only difference is that one keeps track of time and the other one keeps track of points, so there's not a lot to go over. Finally, there's the online mode, being the first time in a Dragon Ball game ever to include an online mode, unless you don't count the Wii version of Tenkaichi 3. Here you can play against other players around the world. Well, you could, because this game's online is pretty much dead. Because, I mean, why would you want to play this game online when you can just be playing fighters, or wait until Sparking Zero comes out? From what I heard, the online wasn't really that good because there were people rage quitting when they lose, and the game counts it up as the fight never even happening. This isn't really a flaw with the game, it's more like a hindrance. Actually, it is a flaw because if you're trying to rank up and someone just disconnects, you don't win any points because like I said, the game counts it as if the fight never happened. It's the same problem I had with Street Fighter V's online. Why do both players get punished just because of one player not being able to take a loss? I mean, I guess the problem doesn't really exist anymore because I'm pretty sure most Dragon Ball fans have already forgotten about this game, so yeah. I'm sorry if it feels like I just skimmed over Burst Limit, but that's really because content-wise, this game doesn't really have that much to offer. And usually I would say stuff like Tenkaichi 3 and Budokai 3 came out before this game, and they have way more content, so what's this game's excuse? The thing is, this game actually does have an excuse, and it's because the game was actually released unfinished. That's why the story mode only goes up to sell. The character roster doesn't even have half as much as Tenkaichi 3, and it doesn't have a tournament mode or customization, which is a little bit weird because what's a Dragon Ball game without a tournament mode? And customization too. The main reason why people are still playing Tenkaichi 3 17 years later, besides the modders and people still finding out about secret techniques in the game, is the customization lets you alter the stats and the combat of your characters, but it also things to do like limiting how much damage normal attack can do to you or increase your speed. Because of all those options, it makes you want to keep on coming back to the game to see what new things you can do with the characters. I mean, I guess the drawing piece can be seen as customization, but they're only a temporary boost. I wouldn't even mind if you see like a castle system like the Budokai games come back here too. But if they had more time in development, then maybe they could iron out all the issues that this game had, and apparently there was going to be a sequel that was planned, but we'll never see the light of day because of this game's mixed reception. I mean, it's unfortunate too because I can tell that they were pretty ambitious going into this just by watching the intro. This game had the foundations and the base of the game, but the execution just kind of falls apart. Although I guess it doesn't really matter because they released the game in the state that it was in, and it's not like the game is broken. Like, I played games that are in way worse states than this, but what the game could have or would have been doesn't really matter to me. Like, what I played wasn't terrible, but I can agree that it's kind of a step backwards from what Budokai 3 brought to the table. And it's kind of sad to see that the Budokai series had to end on a pretty mediocre note, but I don't know, with Sparking Zero coming out pretty soon, there's a chance that the Budokai series might make a comeback. I was kind of hoping I would come out of this game being at least pleasantly surprised, but I guess the game being mid is better than it being completely terrible, so, gotta take good with the bad. But next time in this marathon at least, we're going to be looking at, in my opinion, the last good Dragon Ball game before 2016, Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2, skipping Raging Blast 1 because I already did a video on that game, you can watch it on the card on top. But until that video comes out, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.
Yeah.